Alright, I've gone back and forth on whether to post this. I've seen a lot of wild stuff in this sub, but this one still sits weird with me. It wasn't violent, no one got physically hurt, but I crossed a line I never thought I would. And the worst part? At the time, it felt completely justified. My name's William. This happened about 8 years ago when I was in my final year of university. I wasn't a bad student, not really. Just inconsistent. The kind of guy who understood everything in class but couldn't bring himself to care until it was too late. That semester was brutal. I was juggling part-time work, family issues, and honestly, a growing sense that I didn't belong there anymore. Everyone else seemed to have their lives mapped out, internships, grad schools, big plans. I was just trying to stay afloat. Then came the exam results. I remember opening the online portal at like 2:17 a.m. You know that feeling when your stomach drops before your brain even processes what you're seeing? Yeah. That. I'd failed one of my core subjects. Not barely failed, I mean properly, unmistakably failed. And failing that course meant one thing: I wouldn't graduate on time. That might not sound like a huge deal to some people, but to me, it was everything. My parents had sacrificed a lot to get me there. I'd already stretched things thin financially. Staying another semester wasn't just embarrassing, it was expensive, complicated, and honestly, something I didn't think I could handle mentally. So I sat there in the dark, staring at that red mark on the screen, and for the first time, a thought crept in. Not, I'll retake it. Not, I'll talk to the professor. But something else. Something worse. I remember actually laughing under my breath when it hit me. Because it was so stupid. So risky. So obviously wrong. And yet, it felt possible. That was the moment everything changed. I didn't act on it right away. I want to make that clear. I'm not some mastermind who instantly jumps into crime mode. It was slower than that. More like a thought that kept tapping me on the shoulder, refusing to go away. At first, I tried to be rational. Just email the professor. Maybe there's been a mistake. You can fix this the normal way. I even drafted an email at one point, then just stared at it, knowing deep down nothing would change. The grade was what it was. But that thought kept circling back. What if it didn't have to be? See, our university system wasn't exactly cutting edge. The grades were uploaded into this old internal portal, and from there, they were finalized by administrative staff before being locked permanently. I'd used the system enough to notice quirks, delays, inconsistencies, weird access timings. I started paying attention. Not acting, just observing. When were grades editable? Who had access? How long before they were finalized? It felt harmless at first. Just curiosity. Just me trying to understand the system. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't just observing anymore. I was looking for a way in. I wish I could say I struggled with the morality of it longer than I did. That I lost sleep, paced around, weighed right and wrong like some decent person should. I didn't. Not really. What I did instead was something far more dangerous. I justified it. I told myself it wasn't like I was stealing money or hurting someone directly. It was just a number in a system. A correction, if anything. I knew I understood the material. I'd had a bad exam, sure, but did that really define my entire ability? That's what I kept repeating. Then I started comparing. Other students cheated in exams. People plagiarized entire essays and still graduated. The system wasn't fair, so why should I play fair? That thought stuck. The more I leaned into it, the more it stopped feeling like a crime and started feeling like balance. Like I was fixing something broken. Looking back now, that's the scariest part. Not the act itself, but how easy it was to convince myself I deserved to do it. Once I crossed that mental line, everything shifted. I stopped asking if and started asking how. The system we used had this clunky back end that students weren't supposed to access. But if you'd ever tried to navigate university portals at odd hours, you'd notice strange things. Pages loading differently, permissions glitching, links that shouldn't really be there. Most people ignored it. I didn't. I began staying up late, logging in at different times, clicking through every obscure tab I could find. It felt like exploring a building after hours, doors half-locked but not quite shut. One night, I stumbled onto something. It wasn't dramatic, no flashing admin panel or anything like that. Just a page that loaded incorrectly, showing fields that were usually hidden. Course codes, student IDs, and grades, in editable-looking boxes. My heart started pounding immediately. I refreshed the page and it disappeared. Tried again, nothing. But I'd seen it. That was the crack. Small, unstable, but real. And once I knew it existed, I couldn't pretend this was just a fantasy anymore. After that night, I couldn't focus on anything else. Lectures blurred together, conversations felt distant. My mind kept replaying that broken page, those editable fields. I needed to know if it was real or just some one-time glitch. So I started experimenting. Nothing reckless at first. I'd log in during off hours, around 1 or 2 a.m., when fewer people were likely using the system. I tracked patterns, when the portal lagged, when it refreshed data, when it behaved strangely. It took a few nights, but eventually I triggered it again. Same page. Same fields. This time, I didn't freeze. I just hovered. Watching. Taking mental notes. I didn't type anything yet, I wasn't that far gone. But I noticed something important: the fields weren't locked. No pop-ups, no warnings. It looked like a draft state. Temporary. Unfinalized. That meant one thing: somewhere between input and confirmation, the system trusted what was there. And if it trusted it, then maybe it wouldn't question it either. That was the moment curiosity fully turned into intent. Once I knew it might be possible, I became methodical about it. Almost obsessive. If I was going to do something this risky, it couldn't be impulsive, it had to be controlled. I started writing things down. Not directly, obviously, nothing that said, change grade. Just patterns, timings, behavior. When the system synced, when updates appeared, how long it took for grades to move from pending to final. I even tested how long sessions stayed active before timing out. Turns out, longer than they should have. The biggest question was simple: if I changed something, would it stick? I couldn't test that on my own grade right away. That would be reckless. So I watched other entries, classmates' results as they rolled in. I noticed delays. Small discrepancies between what people said they got and what showed up initially. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to build a theory. There was a window. A short one. And if I timed it right, I could slip something through before the system closed it forever. That's when I picked the night. I didn't rush into it. Even after all that planning, I waited a few more days, partly to be sure, partly because I was scared to actually go through with it. There's a big difference between thinking about something and sitting there, knowing you're about to do it. I chose a Thursday night. No real reason, just a gut feeling. Fewer people around, fewer updates happening. It felt quieter, like the system itself would be less watched. I remember setting everything up like it was some kind of ritual. Laptop fully charged. Internet stable. Notes open beside me with all the timings I'd tracked. I even logged into the portal earlier that evening, just to make sure nothing had changed. By the time it was around 2 a.m., my heart was already racing. I told myself I could still back out. Close the laptop, go to sleep, deal with the consequences like a normal person. But I didn't. Instead, I logged in again, and waited. Refreshing. Watching. Hoping that broken page would appear one more time. It happened faster than I expected. One refresh, nothing. Second, normal. Third, there it was. That same broken page. Same exposed fields. Same quiet opportunity sitting right in front of me. My hands actually froze over the keyboard. Not metaphorically. I mean, I just sat there, staring at the screen, feeling my pulse in my fingertips. This was it. No more theory, no more planning. Just a choice. I remember whispering, "Just fix it." Like that somehow made it less wrong. I navigated to my course. Found my student ID. And there it was, my grade, sitting in that little box like it had no idea what I was about to do. For a second, I hesitated. Not because I thought I'd get caught, but because I realized how easy it was. Then I deleted it. Typed in a new number. Not perfect, I wasn't stupid. Just enough to pass comfortably. I stared at it for a moment, then hit enter. No warning. No confirmation. Just silence. And then the page reloaded. At first, nothing happened. That's the part one didn't expect. I thought there would be alarms, or at least some visible reaction, something to tell me the system had noticed what I'd done. But the page just reloaded. My new grade was there, sitting calmly in the table like it had always belonged. I remember staring at it for a full minute without blinking. Waiting for it to disappear. Waiting for my account to lock. Waiting for reality to catch up. It didn't. That's when the adrenaline hit. Not immediately after I did it, but after I realized I might have actually gotten away with it. I closed the laptop slowly, like sudden movement would somehow trigger consequences. Then I just sat there in the dark, listening to the hum of my room, trying to convince myself I hadn't just done something irreversible. The weirdest part? I didn't feel relief. Not yet. It felt more like suspension, like I was standing on a ledge and hadn't looked down yet. The next morning felt normal in the worst possible way. That's what unsettled me. I expected something immediate, an email, a system alert, anything. But there was nothing. The portal still showed my updated grade, unchanged, almost indifferent. I went to campus trying to act normal. Sat through lectures, nodded at things I didn't fully hear. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach tightened. By midday, I started convincing myself I was safe. That's when the first strange thing happened. A friend from my course mentioned something casually, that grades for our subject were being double-checked because of inconsistencies. He said it like it was nothing, just admin noise. But I felt my chest drop instantly. I asked him what he meant, trying to sound casual. He shrugged. Just some people saying their results changed overnight. Probably system bugs. Overnight. That word stuck with me for the rest of the day. I laughed it off in the moment. Even joked about universities being a mess. But inside, I wasn't laughing at all. After that conversation, I couldn't focus on anything. Every detail suddenly felt heavier, like it had a second meaning hidden underneath. I logged into the portal again that night, expecting, I don't know what. Maybe that it would all be reversed. Maybe that I'd see a warning message waiting for me. Instead, I noticed something else. The grade entry looked different. Not the number itself, but the metadata around it. A timestamp I didn't recognize. A small note field that hadn't been there before. My stomach tightened immediately. I refreshed. It stayed. I checked another course, same structure change. Then another. It wasn't just my entry anymore. The system itself looked like it had been updated or audited. That's when the paranoia started properly. I began replaying everything I had done, step by step, trying to identify where I might have left a trace. A login time. An IP overlap. Anything. What scared me most wasn't that I might be caught. It was that I couldn't tell whether they already knew, and were just waiting. 2 days later, I got an email. Short. Formal. The kind that looks harmless until you actually read it properly. Please attend a meeting with the academic administration regarding a discrepancy in recent assessment records. No accusation. No detail. Just an invitation that didn't feel like an invitation. I read it 3 times before it sank in. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it was routine, maybe lots of students got these. But I knew better. The timing was too perfect. Too targeted. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling something cold settle in my chest. Not panic exactly. More like inevitability. I considered not going. That thought lasted maybe 10 seconds before I realized how pointless it was. Not showing up would only make it worse. So I went. I told myself I'd just explain it away. System glitch, misunderstanding, whatever sounded believable. But as I walked toward the administration building, I realized something simple and terrifying. I wasn't in control of the story anymore. The room was smaller than I expected. Too bright, too clean, like it had been designed to make people uncomfortable without them realizing why. There were 3 of them. One from administration, one from the academic department, and someone I didn't recognize, probably ID. They asked me to sit. I remember my hands felt strangely heavy as I placed them on the table. I tried to act normal, like I had nothing to hide, but I could hear my own voice in my head already breaking apart before I even spoke. They started gently, asking about my coursework, my access to the portal, my study habits. Then the tone shifted. They mentioned unauthorized modifications. Not directly accusing me yet, but circling it like they already knew the answer. My mouth went dry. I denied it at first. Too quickly. I could tell they noticed. The IT guy finally slid a printout across the table. Logs. Access times. My login session highlighted in a neat line of certainty. And in that moment I understood, this wasn't a conversation. It was confirmation. I remember looking at the printout for longer than I should have. It wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no sudden accusations. Just quiet certainty sitting on paper in front of me. My name. My login. The timestamps. The sequence of access that didn't belong there. For a few seconds, I tried to still convince myself there was a way out. A misunderstanding. A coincidence. Some technical explanation that didn't end with me being the obvious answer. But the silence in the room made that impossible. The administrator spoke first, calm and controlled. They said they had already verified the logs with the system team. That they were confident about the nature of the discrepancy. That phrase stuck with me, confident about the nature. They didn't need me to confess. They already had the shape of what happened. They just wanted me to fill in the missing detail. I didn't argue much after that. My voice came out quieter than I expected, broken into short answers. Denials that didn't hold weight anymore. And slowly, I stopped denying altogether. After that meeting, everything moved quickly but quietly. There was no dramatic scene, no police, no shouting in hallways. Just paperwork, decisions, and the kind of institutional silence that makes things feel even more final. My results were voided. The course was marked as failed. There was talk of disciplinary action, and in the end I was suspended pending review, then effectively pushed out of the system. Not banned in some cinematic way, just removed. I went home and didn't really tell anyone the full story. Not my parents, not my friends. I said I'd run into academic issues. That was enough to stop questions. But inside, something didn't settle. At first I thought I'd feel panic, or regret, or anger. It came in waves, but mostly it was something heavier, awareness. Of how small the moment had been when I chose to do it. How ordinary it felt at the time. That's what stuck with me. Not the consequences. But how easily I crossed into them. If there's anything I learned, it's this: most bad decisions don't feel like falling. They feel like logic.